Hello, everybody. Welcome to Movie Mumbles, and this time, continuing with our R-rated superheroes, we have a striking contest.
Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck is talking right now?
Hey,
God,
what the hell?
We didn't properly introduce you. Anyway,
I'm this numbnuts brother, Joe Johnson,
and I'm Roy Johnson, and
I appear as a guest cameo. And if you see me earlier, I did an appearance for the Deadpool movie Mumbles, and I'm the one who made a pick for just R-rated superheroes, and
Womble's also here. So
sure.
I was forced into this against my will. Just so you're aware.
Anyway,
are we starting another stupid kidnapping storyline now? No, but seriously.
Oh god, yeah. No,
it's more like a terrain with a sniper. But I digress. Anyway,
hey,
let's get...
that kidnapping storyline was gold, all right?
That was very funny.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Yes, yeah, I am.
I love that.
But anyway, as Joe said, we're doing the theme of R-rated superhero movies, and of course, we're talking about the second most talked about R-rated superhero movie, Logan, which it's not really a superhero movie when you think about it. Like, besides,
no, it's not. It's a western.
And we're going to talk about it. First, spoilers are ahead for this movie, and seriously,
they will be ahead.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about.
There's a lot of.
We're going to talk about.
Don't just go and watch Logan. Go and watch X-Men, X-Men 2,
and that's
then Age of not the
Age of Ultron.
No. Days of Future Past. And then you can watch Logan. And maybe the Wolverine. The Wolverine, you might be able to get away with watching that.
I like the Wolverine.
The other one's shit.
So watch about half.
Those films.
Don't forget about X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Logan, and then...
No. So watch about half.
Days of Future Past. You need to watch Days of Future Past, I think, just before you watch this film. Or the Wolverine.
Yeah, how do you feel about Apocalypse, actually?
He doesn't like Sansa Stark as Jean Grey.
Well,
I know he doesn't.
That doesn't mean...
No, I hate it. I hated Apocalypse. It was terrible.
Watch a few clips on YouTube. Like,
he's seen the movie, Kyle. It doesn't...
listen. Watch it, like, just the clip where Wolverine got out and got his memory restored, and a little post-ending credits with getting the blood thing. If you want X-Men Origins Wolverine, origin story.
There was that E-Sex connection with the blood, which might go into this movie. Maybe it does kind of connect.
I'll say E-Sex.
No, don't watch Apocalypse. Don't watch Apocalypse.
Just the two clips.
It's best left alone. It was awful. It's ruined the whole franchise.
Joe, you want to talk about the plot of this movie?
God, it's so fucking dark.
It's depressing. It's a very depressing movie.
In the near future, wary Logan cares for an aging Professor X somewhere in the Mexican border. However, Logan's attempts to hide from the world and his legacy and are upended when a young mutant arrives, pursued by dark forces. There we go. I did it.
Also, mostly X-Men are dead, and most of the mutant population have been decreased.
Yeah, most of the mutant population is gone.
Shall we talk about the X-Men deaths real quick? Because that's actually a very, very subtle part in this film, and I don't want to dwell too much on it.
I mean, they say it explicitly, like, the thing, so pretty much...
No, they don't. It's very much in the background. Like,
I mean, it is,
but... say it, but it's very much in the background, and it's very well handled.
So, essentially, Professor X, who at this point has become a senile old man. He's in a... Well, I mean, he's always been in a wheelchair, but, like, he has, like, Alzheimer's and like,
Alzheimer's or ALS or some sort of brain degenerative disease, that sort of
which, as they point out, is not good in the brain of someone with mental powers. As literally every time he has a seizure, like, people can't, like, are
unable to breathe and freeze.
They essentially have a seizure with him, essentially,
and that ultimately causes the death of,
like, in the past, what is called the Westchester, like, incident. That killed 7 of the X-Men, which is
7 of the X-Men, yeah. Which you would presume are the main cast, so your Cyclops, your Storm, your Jean, all of those, the Beast,
your Nightcrawlers.
Sort of
they're all dead because of Charles, which is fucked up.
They're all dead. And the only reason why Logan survived it is because of the adamantium laced on his brain, which doesn't have as much of the effects.
Well, because he's a Logan.
And his healing powers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because, like, as we mentioned, it's not really a superhero movie, besides the use of comic book characters.
And mutant powers.
Yeah, and that's
and the comic book.
And the comic book. But there's really not that much with, comic book, like, it's not really a comic book movie. No. Like you said, there's a lot of Western parallels. Like, they literally show Shane, a Western.
It's a modern day Western. You go and look at, say, what's the one with Tommy Lee Jones that was released in 2008? No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. No, oh, yeah. I was about to mention
No
that.
Country for Old Men was effectively a Western, you see.
It's very much
it's got
has a
that
similar feeling.
It's got that vibe behind it. Now, the director, James Mangold, the reason why I said go and watch The Wolverine is because he also directed The Wolverine. And the problem that I had with The Wolverine was the fact that there wasn't any of that R-rated violence in it. And that could have made that film so much better. Like, so much better.
Yeah.
Oh, to be fair, the action scenes were amazing.
Because you've got the samurai mentality behind the Wolverine legacy. Like, Wolverine is probably the biggest thing, like probably one of the bigger characters that Marvel has and owns, apart from maybe Spider-Man. So Wolverine is way up there. He can stand alone on his own. He can do an amazing movie. And
he's the best at what he does.
The two before that before Logan, haven't really held up for it. Now, Hugh Jackman's performance has always been steady and brilliant, but the direction behind it and the look from the audience has never been altogether that with it. However, with Logan, when we come around to Logan, because they've added in that R rating because of Deadpool, it just adds that much more tension and that risk to the story.
And it really feels... it's not just... And like with Deadpool, it's not just, cursing and blood.
It's not just blood, guts, and gore. Yeah, it's also a lot of...
it's a dark story. It's a dark...
A lot of deep and dark.
It's an adult movie.
A lot of people fucking die in that film. And it's very sad.
It's like... I mean, a lot of people die in a lot of films. It's the way they die, I think, that makes it very brutal. Yeah.
It's the execution is really good.
And I really do think it's the fact that we've had so many movies with like Wolverine and Professor X. It's very I think it adds to that because we've seen these characters grow up.
This is the best performance from both of them.
Yes.
Both Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman together, best performance for these characters by a long way. And their last performance, which is the best thing for these characters, is for them to now die. And this is, I'm now directing this to Fox. Do not resurrect Wolverine. Don't do it. Please,
they're gonna reboot it though. They're gonna reboot it.
Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. I don't care.
They're gonna reboot
it. If only he had the suit on.
Yeah, of course they will. They want the money.
Yeah. If only he had the suit on.
He never got to wear that suit, did he?
What the fuck?
It was hinted towards at the end of the Wolverine. Yeah, that was the only reference.
Which is technically an uncut, deleted scene. Which fucking I would love to see in Days of... I would love to see that he wear the suit in Days of Future Past. What the fuck?
Anyway.
But no, I like that. I like the fact that he never did, because right in the first film, there's that joke about...
The spandex, yellow spandex.
Yeah, the yellow spandex. It's like, what? That level's a little bit off. What do you want? Yellow spandex? I always used to laugh at that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Hugh Jackman never actually did don the tights. So that's good.
Actually, I wouldn't because if you look at the Wolverine costume that they presented in the deleted scene of the Wolverine, it actually looks really good. I love the modern take of it.
This is a mature story, and I think as mentioned, it wasn't the blood or the cursing that initially gave it that R rating. It was the stuff with the child soldiers, which is really just a fucked up moment where we find out X-23, who I think gave the little girl who did X-23 was such an amazing performance. I think especially for a child actor. I know your thoughts on child actors, but I really think she did a good.
No, I'm going to agree with this. It's is it
Danielle Sheen
or something?
Dana Keeney?
Daphne Keane. Yeah, sorry. Her performance in this, and I actually have this wrote down on my notes. Her performance throughout, for the most part of the film, she's silent as well, which is even more impressive.
Which makes sense for the character.
Because then when she does start talking and it's all in Spanish and it's just blah 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 blah.
That scene actually is actually
Logan
interesting. You know the scene where Laura talks back in Spanish, right? If you actually speak Spanish, she's basically saying, "Why the hell should I speak when all you do is treat me like shit?" So
I didn't know that because I don't speak Spanish. So.
Yeah. But it's really. Every performance in this was really good, and I think the thing is, I love the action scenes in this one, mainly because there's such a grit to it.
And they're down to earth.
There's, when it's so satisfying in a way to see, Logan's claws actually penetrate skin, and you see the blood, and it's just,
And I like it like it doesn't show like blood like Quentin Tarantino, like blood gushing everywhere.
No, it's very grounded. It's very like
which actually is very realistic to how like an artery would explode in real life, by the way. But no, this is a lot more. It's enough blood, but it's not too much to kind of gross you out and make it look funny, kind of thing. It still keeps that serious note to it. When I used to do movie thoughts, I went to the cinema, I took a notepad, this notepad I've got right now, and I would write down notes, and then it would go into like I would record my literal thoughts from this notepad. I recorded the notes for this, but seeing as I'm never going to actually make the video, I thought I might just go through some of my points.
No problem.
All right, no problem.
Because this was my first viewing when I did this.
This is my first viewing.
This is what I put. I put characters, all amazing. The edit, everything is timed well with the music.
The execution is the best,
and it cuts out the emotions really well. The story is building and brilliant, and the action is best that I've ever seen from Wolverine. 9 out of 10. So that was going to be my score for Wolverine. It was going to be a 9 out of 10. And this is going through this notebook. I've been very, very mean about a lot of film. I mean, I've got Lights Out on here, which I hated. David Brent, Life on the Road, which was fine. Nerve, which was awful. You know, I've got loads. Finding Dory, which I kind of liked. The BFG, which was meh. Tarzan, which was shit. So, I mean, I was seeing a lot of bad films, and I was partly why I stopped doing movie thoughts. Like, it was nice to have that as kind of like the last film that I went to see that I wrote into this book before I started using it for Mumbles. I'm glad that this one was the last one, but yeah, sorry, I thought, because obviously you brought up something, and I wanted to relate it back because I'd actually made that note on my first viewing, which was pretty cool.
I love like the execution. The execution does really well. In fact, the opening scene itself is just It's so pure awesomeness.
I mean, it's kind of one thing I find funny is literally the first word is "fuck." Like right up, like they know it's an R-rated movie. Like literally, Logan's first word is "fuck," and he just says it because we all know like he usually just gets one fuck per movie.
And James Mangold is very, very quick to establish that Logan is not well.
Yeah, that's very much true. Like
he's drunk. We've never seen him this low before. Half of his claw on his left hand doesn't protrude properly.
And his healing powers.
And like he's very slow. He's getting beaten up very quickly. Whereas, say if we took this Logan from the first X-Men movie, he'd just gone through them like bread and butter, kind of like a knife and butter.
Exactly. That's it. And these are just normal guys. Yeah. These are not mutants or anything. These are normal like people beating the shit out of Logan, which is such as
not for long though.
Yeah, I mean, he fights.
It also shows like that, but like quickly, like he's a limo driver and he like cares about the limo more than the car. The scene in the bathroom where it just shows like his healing powers have been slowed down, and like it just quickly shows the job everything.
And then there's like the scene after this where he's in the restroom and you see like the scars on his hand where he's not quite healing properly.
Yeah,
and then you've got like, the bullets slowly popping out, and you've got other scars all over his body which you've never actually seen before.
I've hurt myself today.
It just really genuinely, it feels like he's in pain and that there is a risk this time. And I think that for me, along with the performance of Hugh Jackman, the performance of Patrick Stewart, and including Daphne Keane and Stephen Merchant, who plays Caliban, like such all of those performances put together, and even I'll come to Richard E. Grant in a minute. But all of those performances put together like makes a really compelling, character-driven story about family. That's what this film's about. It's about family. And a trip basically across America, trying to get from one destination to another.
To Canada.
And it's a lot of bad things happen along the way.
And it's very, like, it's very interesting to see such a depowered Wolverine, because it really does increase the stakes. Like, the Wolverine, for instance, had to do something where they had to remove his healing factor or
yeah, with a little, like, metal thing.
They have to do stuff like that to make Logan depowered. But here, it's a much more grounded. He's getting older, and the healing factor is just worsening with age, and the adamantium in his skull is poisoning him.
And he's having a hard time to pull his claws.
Yeah, he's just getting older, and, like, there's more, like, intensity.
And he looks older. He looks ill.
Yes.
Like, throughout this, he has this limp all the way through. And he physically looks and acts like he's constantly in pain. The scene
where we get, like, first see Charles Xavier, like, in the like, silo thing, and he's all old and crazy.
And it's kind of funny for Charles to swear.
It is, but, like,
it's so sad.
That was some Patrick Stewart. Like, that's probably some of the best acting I've ever seen from Patrick Stewart, and that's saying something.
It's so depressing. Yeah.
So I've seen Patrick Stewart. I've met Patrick Stewart, and I've seen him on stage, and he is amazing to watch. But that is probably that's the pinnacle.
I heard in his acting, he like lose a lot of weight to give him like lose a lot of weight.
Frail image.
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
Yeah, he went full into this.
Yeah, and it's so like
it tells.
It's shocking too, because to see such in the previous movies, he had such a strong bravado. He had a strong presence,
hopeful person,
and seeing him just withered away, acting like an old man,
to swearing and like
senile,
effectively giving
and
up.
The seizures.
When we find out, and he's seizures, which are very lethal and have killed the X-Men. You can see a lot of sorrow, especially in that final scene, which ends up becoming his death scene.
Oh, that was, especially like during that scene where he talks about. Oh, like, cause he has like a little Alzheimer's where he sometimes can't forget or doesn't recognize. He forgets to recognize, and he does remember a scene, and he feels bad. That does he even deserve to live with like the Musos or
with the things he's done? With the things he's done, and it's most fucked up because a Wolverine clone ends up killing him. So it almost looks like Wolverine is killing him. And how amazing is it that the final threat that Wolverine has to face is essentially
his inner demons,
a literal clone that embodies all of his like animal rage, essentially.
Not just a clone, but like a clone of Wolverine at his peak. Like,
that happened to look similar to Sabretooth, and I kind of love like how Logan.
I thought that too as well.
I kind of like how I find it interesting how Logan looked at his clone. He's like he's just staying still,
and the clone just doesn't do. He just leaves
with Laura.
Yeah, God.
All right. The one thing I love is that they introduce Pierce. Like I love that introduction. Like, he just sit there calm. He's like collected and fanboyish, as well as threatening, and it just did really well. Like, he acting calm, collected, and threatening. Like, he knows shit.
Like the part where he mentions the old cue ball. Like, like even though you don't technically know, you have a feeling. Well,
yeah, it's pretty much implied.
Yeah. I mean,
it shows like threatening. I like it. I love that introduction.
Let's talk about the villains for this.
Yeah.
Mainly Richard E. Grant's character, Dr. Rice. I didn't like that again, and it's the same problem that I have with Marvel villains. There's no motivation. There's nothing for me to care about these characters. And again, I know the main character, like, this is a character-driven story with Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and even Daphne Keane. Like, those three characters. That's what the main film is about, those three characters. But, I mean, you still get a good character in, like, Caliban. Even Pierce, played by Holdbrook. Can't remember his first name. Something Holdbrook. Then you get Richard E. Grant's character, Dr. Rice, who is probably the most forgettable character, apart from the other children, in the whole film. And that's because you don't really know anything about it, about
or you didn't really get that much screen time.
You only ever see him in the flashbacks, you only ever see him in the flashbacks, so it's all sub-proposition saying...
I guess the thing is, like, if you had a little more screen time, like, they...
I think... No, I do think... Like, I do agree. He's not as fleshed out as the other characters. Mm-hmm. I do think they established, like, he's kind of a sociopath in a way.
he's the only two-dimensional character in the whole film.
Yeah, he's like
because
they're
you never see another side to him other than him constantly chasing after the children and trying to kill the children. It's like, well, why is he trying to kill the children? Why is he trying to control the mutants? It's never really shown or portrayed.
I guess like from him, he's like they're useless because he has X-24. So why do he need people that? And you know like the backstory.
Why is he doing it in the first place? Like, there's no motivation otherwise generic, boring movie villain, superhero movie villain.
I definitely do think he's a missed opportunity, especially since he does actually like he's single-handedly responsible for wiping out mutants.
And the way he did it was fucking interesting, especially when compared to the other times people try to do that.
Like, it's a very simple solution. He just poisons
creates a GMO corn.
Why did he do it? I mean, I in myself can place a really valid reason that was never really touched upon in the film. So he is the son of Stryker, apparently, because apparently Stryker had
they mentioned that in the movie.
I thought it was some other
wasn't
scientist
disabled or a mutant or whatever. Apparently, he did have a son that was normal. But anyway.
Yeah, that's unless it's a second son.
He's the son of Stryker, right? So he finds out that Wolverine has killed Stryker. Maybe we could get a little bit of like him chasing
revenge
him down over like a couple of years or whatever. And like because he doesn't have a dad anymore, he's lost, and then he falls into the same lines that his dad was down because he generally believes that mutants are very, very dangerous. But instead of destroying them, he thinks that he could control them. You see, I've given him extra depth there that was never shown in the film. The only moment where it's mentioned that his father was Stryker is right at the end, and it's a throwaway line. It's I'm the son of the person who created it. Oh, I might have killed him. Yeah, you did.
I do.
That's it. And that's literally it.
I mean, Xander Rice appearance, I reminded a lot of the comics because he gets a lot more detail in the comics.
Yeah, but the comics don't matter. We're watching the film. We're not reading the comics. Like, you can't expect everyone to go into this film having read the old Logan or reading any of the comics. You see. And as far as I'm aware, Dr. Rice isn't portrayed the same way in the comics anyway.
No, I think I do agree. Like, in the comics, they do play more towards the revenge angle with Wolverine.
Basically, I'm trying to say is I got a little excited, and this is exciting seeing Xander Rice, but that's because of the comics. I agree with you. I feel that if you weren't a comic fan, you probably feel a little two-dimensional.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
And I do think this portrayal falls flat from the comics.
Well, I'm curious, how do you feel about the other one, Pierce?
Pierce is fine because it's still a little bit two-dimensional, but at least you do flesh out his drive behind it.
It's interesting a bit that he's almost a bit of a fanboy towards Wolverine. Yeah, and it's interesting actually because
he very much shows respect to Wolverine right at the beginning. He's very humbling. I think he's not the average goon because he's a little bit cocky and he's trying to control more out of his ballpark. I mean, he does add things to the film. I think you could probably do this film without Dr. Rice and just keep it as Pierce, who's the one that's chasing them all the way through, and it would work the same way.
Okay.
Or you could do it the same as just get rid of Pierce and keep Dr. Rice and flesh out Dr. Rice a little bit more. Maybe do it that way. So you don't need. I don't think you need both of them. A henchman that has probably more screen time than Richard E. Grant does.
I mean, no, for me, I feel like there should be given more time for Xander.
I do agree. I think both characters, I
don't mind both.
I think it should have been one villain. I do agree.
I don't mind having two. I just feel at least one has a little more screen time. And I don't mind if the guys actually have a few more minutes to show a little more of Xander Rice. That's how I
flesh him
feel.
out. I agree.
But what about Caliban? Caliban, poor unfortunate
I was
soul.
reminded a bit of Nux from Mad Max Fury Road when watching him.
I never seen Mad Max, so I can't really...
But, Womble, you... I was talking about how the character of Caliban almost reminds me of Nux from Mad Max Fury Road.
I feel sad for Caliban.
This whole film actually reminds me of Mad Max Fury Road. They're on a journey. They're going in one direction. It's all about the characters inside this car that are moving along, and there's a sense of family between them, or a loss of family, or there's something in the past that is darkening. There's a lot in this film that reminds me of Mad Max Fury Road.
Comparing this to a Western, I do think it's interesting because, like, superhero movies are following the way of the Westerns in that Westerns were once really, really, really big.
Until Sputnik.
But it eventually just kind of became less popular because of how oversaturated it is, and superhero movies are going down that similar route. And what made Westerns interesting as time went on were the ones that explored the more realistic aspects of it, went away from the classic image of a good cowboy versus like a bad Indian or something like that, and explore the complex nature behind that. And I think this movie really does something similar.
You think there's gonna be a rise for Westerns eventually?
I'm not sure. Let's not talk about that. That's a bit
okay.
Yes. But that is
I'm not sure.
Topic
like
for this.
I'm not sure that it's going to die away as quickly as like Westerners, because again, like superheroes like are very popular,
but
like not just like
so
films.
John Wayne.
John Wayne.
John Wayne. You know, John Wayne was very, very popular. He was the Superman of the movies. Westerns died away, and I generally believe that superhero films will die away. If not, they already are. It's a stagnant genre. It really is. This is the change. This is the change that is needed. This is the change that we've been waiting for a very long time, and I'm hoping that more films can maybe take these characters and put them into more difficult situations from the comic books instead of going down the same film every single time, which is what effectively we're getting at.
I do agree. I do agree. I think this film provides a very, very grounded,
very different,
serious. It's an adult movie. It's a very adult movie. It's not like a kid, like a kid-friendly action adventure thing,
or a teen thing, like kid trying to be adult.
No, it's very serious. Like it's an adult story, and it deals with like themes of mortality and like just growing old and like the new generation replacing the old. Like let's just get out of the way. Wolverine and Professor X, they die. They're definitively dead after this movie.
That's fucking tragic.
It like you see a character you've grown up with for so many years now, whether it's the movies, the cartoon shows, the comics, etc., etc. You see them die, and it's very, especially Wolverine's death, because I love his last line is this is how it feels.
Because and it kind of reminds me of the Wolverine,
both deaths
actually.
Handled beautifully. Both beautiful moments. And especially, like, the burying of Charles after, where Wolverine, like, he's so emotional, he can't even talk. Like, And then, like, he just goes full wham on the car because it's not working, and he's got all
He was going to abandon X-23, because he was.
He was. The
relationship is interesting.
He'd given up.
Yeah. So, I love the relationship. I love like the relationship between Charles and like Laura, and like they're kind of like Charles like an old grandma, like talking about grandpa like for Laura, and like Logan's kind of like I don't want to.
He's the reluctant father, but like eventually at the very end, you know, he finally gets.
Let's talk about that last scene really quickly, because
first off, I want to say something. Amazing. You know, the, like, Wolverine died, like, I can't remember the quote, like, this is how suicide, you know that kind of reminds me of? The Wolverine, like, them talking about death, and, like, the scene with, like, the guy, like,
Remember what they said about his death? He would die with his heart in his hands. And, of course, that's not literal. He has Laura, like, she's holding on to him on his death. So there's a bit of a beautiful connection between
And you know something I love about the scene when you look back? Because I feel like another reason why he's being a little more reluctant, because, like, in the past, he has people become, like, that he's been close to die.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to do that to Laura.
Everyone he's known or come close to has connected with, has died at this point.
Or he has to kill to make a sacrifice. And I love about the scene is that Laura's one of the few cases where it's not.
Well, he manages to save her life, and she gets to, like, live on, at least. He manages to save one life, and he does so, like, protecting her, and he gets a warrior's death, essentially.
Let's just go over this really quick. At that moment, you realize that in the past, you're saying about the death, they literally reference in the film very, very briefly about the seven mutants
X-Men
that died. So that's the past version that have died. The present is Xavier dying, And then the future, he's generally very scared for Laura's safety, and that's why he tries to drive away after Charles has died and after that funeral. That's why he tries to leave her, because he doesn't want her to get hurt like everyone else has.
And it's actually satisfying.
It's that realization that to protect the future, he's the one that has to die instead of Laura, and that was the way forward. And for me, those last 20 minutes, action packed, very very high octane, a lot of adrenaline that goes into it, and then you get that release, and then the movie ends. And
I love
in
the
tears.
the subtle fact is they push in on the grave, and if you see, like, you would, like, the subconscious thing is, oh, there's gonna be a final thing where maybe his hand comes up at the end like a healing factor, but there's nope, it's dip to black, like, just nope, he's definitely dead.
Just make the X.
And then
he's dead.
And the X.
No more Wolverine films. Thank you very much, Fox. And I think that's the end of the Movie Mumbles on R-rated movies.
Yeah, put that X on the grave for that shit.
I
X on No More Wolverine.
That's a good place to end the podcast.
Yeah.
X is gonna give it to you.
X is gonna give it to you. Oh God, damn it.
Oh yeah. Wait. It was really nice being here. It's nice talking about these films with you guys. I hope I appear if you don't mind, me and Peter and other podcasts.
Maybe we'll bring you back. Maybe.
I hope you guys enjoy my idea.
Yeah, no. It was honestly, it was great having you. I like the movies you picked. You picked some really great movies to talk about, and we had an interesting discussion to talk about.
So, let me ask you guys, what's your plan for the next one film?
Well, first you got to get out, because you're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, fine. I'll just do we can do. Whoa.
Okay, well, bye, Joe. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
You'll know soon enough. Anyway,
so let's move on to the next. Actually, you know what? You can do this, Roy. You can do it because it's your.
Yeah, because it's technically my pick afterwards. But after our random years thing and our superheroes thing, let's go to something. Let's go back a little bit to animation, but a particular kind of animation, one that we haven't talked about yet, which is anime. A particular kind of anime from a acclaimed studio. It's not. They're kind of the Japanese equivalent to Disney, which is Studio Ghibli. So yeah, we're looking at Studio Ghibli movies for our next theme, and there's a lot of great movies that we could talk about for that theme. Mm-hmm. And it was, you don't know how hard it was to pick a movie. I've watched a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, and I'm very passionate about those movies, so it was hard to just pick two, and I'm still iffy on some of my choices, but I know what I'm picking for my first one. And this one is not, the first movie you think of when you think of Studio Ghibli. And it's kind of, I would say it's maybe a little controversial, but I think this movie can provide an interesting discussion, and I want to rewatch it. So, the movie we're watching is next for Studio Ghibli, Howl's Moving Castle. So, that's the one we're doing for our next Movie Mumbles.
Awesome.
Have you seen it?
Actually, you went very roboty when you announced it, so I don't actually know what the film is.
It's Howl's Moving Castle. It's Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl's Moving Castle. Okay, cool.
Howl's Moving Castle.
Awesome.
Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the
I haven't. No, I haven't seen that film. I've seen a few Ghibli films, but I haven't seen many.
So it's gonna be interesting. I have seen this movie, and I think it's gonna be an interesting one to talk about. I'm not gonna give you my opinion of it yet, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. Okay,
cool. So I think this is one of the first times where I'm going in blind and you're not.
Yeah.
On Movie Mumbles, because usually because I've seen a lot of films, probably a lot more than I.
You have seen a lot of Studio Ghibli movies though, so.
No, I know.
So this should be interesting.
It's an area that I like. I like the films that I have seen, but I'm not like a dedicated fan, so I haven't really gone out and looked for them. So yeah.
Okay, so now's your chance to check out Howl's Moving Castle for the theme of Studio Ghibli movies. But
yeah, boys.
So yeah, any last thoughts? X gonna give it to you. Okay.
Oh God, fucking goddamn it.
Adios, muchachos.